Hey everyone, this is Tara McCallam with Beyond This Reality, and I was just doing a talk today at it was called the Holistic Health Fair. I want to call it an expo. Anyway, as I was doing the talk, we were going over who in the room was an empath. And a couple people in the room said they didn't know what it was, and then one person said definitely not. But where we actually had to do some clarification was the difference between being an empath and having empathy. Two totally different things that many times get crossed over, but they're very, very different things. So I just wanted to explain the difference between the two. Being an empath means that you have the ability to sense other people's energy, their mood, their thoughts, and their emotions. And you may not be able to articulate them, but you respond very quickly to them. Now, when I go to explain that, many people go, oh, no, I can't do that because they don't want to call themselves an empath, right? But when I go on to explain, like before you walk into your house, on your, you've driven home from work, you go to walk into your house, before you even encounter anybody in the house, do you already know what the mood of the house is? Or if you're in a boardroom, and you're meeting with a new client, and you already know before they begin to speak whether they're in or they're out. Have you ever had situations before where you just knew the right words to say? Now, that's being an empath. What you do with it is totally, another thing. How you respond to the knowledge that you receive. Most of us are receiving this information unconsciously and responding unconsciously, right? And so we're not always responding in a way that is the greatest contribution to the other person or even to ourselves, because we're not conscious of how we're actually reacting to the information that we're receiving. Now, on the other hand, empathy is embodying and getting into that same sensation, emotion, and everything. So the other one was like receiving the information, like it comes in and like flows through. The empathy is actually getting in and experiencing it all. So I like to say empathy is very much like you receive what somebody is feeling, right? And then you get into the poop pool with them. So if they're extremely sad, you end up embodying that much sadness. If they're frustrated, you get in and you embody that much frustration. If they're really happy, so like empath can be, with those too. Like if you're around people who are super happy, you get in. So you're always essentially the victim to what other people are feeling. But where I come from, everybody is empathic, right? And so if we're all receiving information from other people all the time, and many people then choose to empathize and get into it with it, like we're actually just multiplying whatever that energy is. So awesome if it's joy and happiness, but what does it do if we're getting in and we're empathizing and being that space of empathy, than getting into it with somebody who's angry or desperate or whatever, and we actually embody it. No, so not just sympathizing. Like sympathizing is feeling for somebody, like feeling sorry, understanding. Empathy is actually embodying it. So we actually have a choice to stay in our own energy, but the thing is, most of us don't actually know what being expanded in our own light and energy is actually like. And so that is why so many times we receive what people are separate from themselves about. Like, so in the space of separate from themselves in their heaviness. So if our light is pulled in so much into a small space, it leaves all this other space to attract the separateness that other people are feeling from self. And in my interesting point of view, our separateness of self, our distrust of self, our our unease of self, our dislike of self, or just not knowing of self is the greatest tragedy and the greatest pain that we ever have. And so we are willing to fill it with as many other people's things as possible. But if we have very little knowing, acknowledgement, connection with ourself, what we actually pull from others in the other, like, so if this is light, the rest of us is darkness, which is the separateness of self. We pull other people's separateness of self into us and fill that other space. So a lot of people, maybe 90% of their body, their mind, and their spirit is filled with 90% of the separateness of another person or other people all around us, so that we never actually look at the separateness that we have with our own selves and ask the question, how do I change this? And the greatest way to change it is not to rush out to try and push out all the darkness and the separateness. It's to go in and figure out, how do we connect to ourselves? Because the moment that we connect to ourselves is when we turn the light switch on, and we turn the dimmer all the way up, meaning like on. And when we do that, we don't have to push out the darkness, the fear, the separateness, all that kind of stuff, because we just get filled with self, the connection of self. But what are your ways that you connect with self? Right? So we've gone all the way from the space of being an empath. And being an empath, you can move into the space of sympathy. You can move into the space of empathy. Or you can move into the space of allowance. And allowance is the space where you remain in yourself, expanded in yourself. And you're the space of, I see you. I don't judge you. I just see you. I see you where you are. And I'm going to remain right here. And I'm going to hold space for you. Because while I remain with my light on, unapologetically, I allow you to see your own light and to turn it on and to move beyond that space of darkness, rather than me being with you and me echoing your separateness or darkness, or becoming darker even myself. And then what happens is we trade back and forth separateness. When we remain in our light, or even turn it up even more, like maybe we did arrive with somebody and we were in the space of contracted light, and we got into their space and we realized that they were even more contracted than us. Instead of contracting even more, if we expand, we invite them to expand their own. So it's the space of allowance, which is not empathy and it's not sympathy. It's a space of allowance and invitation. It's an invitation to a different space of being. And if you've ever walked into or been in a dark room for a super long time and somebody walked in with their light on, a flashlight, many times it's a little bit disconcerting, squinty, painful even. But as you remain in the darkness and their light remains, your eyes acclimate. So if you're ever that person where you maybe even accidentally walked into a dark room, or where somebody felt the separateness of themselves and it felt difficult, and you could feel, or they even responded like, stop it. Please don't turn your light off, because then the next time you turn it on again, it's going to startle and be painful for them. If you leave it on, so you stay in yourself, you stay trusting yourself, you stay expanded, you stay choosing for you, their eyes will acclimate, their spirit will acclimate, and then they will start to choose not to do what you're doing, but they will start to see that it's not a wrongness to be all that they are, and that they can be all that they are in a different way. And if you stay in your light, like actually celebrate yourself in your awkwardness, if you celebrate yourself in your difference, and maybe not so much with your words, but just by being it without apology, rather than telling, because see, there's a difference when you tell, you're looking for validation, you're looking for acceptance, you're looking for approval that other people can't give you. They're not even there many times in themselves. And so you'll get the opposite of what you're looking for. But when you just be it and you settle into it you settle into being the expanded space of like the difference that you are, watch over time, without words, people will show up and they won't know why they can't help but be around you. They can't help but be around you because you give them the space without judgment to be them. You are the space of allowance. I would love, 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 love for anyone to share their examples of when they were being this, when you weren't. Because here's the reality, like many of us have default modes that take us back into the hiding space, the protection space, the defensive space. We're not taught to stay in our light. We're taught from a very young age to find ways to please others. So if you're finding that your default mode is to please others, to find out how you should be, to follow the rules and all those, many times you're going to feel empty afterwards, devoid of yourself, because it's only in separating from yourself and devoiding yourself of you that you're able to show up in such a way that allows you to give you up in order to please others. The wild and wonderful thing is when you truly fill yourself up and you stop looking for how you can anticipate someone else's needs and you just show up being you, this is the wild and wonderful thing. You do please so many others, but you're pleasing them in a way that they could have never anticipated asking for, because they didn't even know it was possible for someone to show up in such an exorbitant, I don't even know where that came from, amazingly vital and vibrant way. Anyway, sometimes some words just come out of my mouth. I don't even know what they're coming from. Anyways, so please share your stories of, you know, how you are an empath, how you've seen other people be it. My belief is that every single one of us is empathic. Like we really read other people's energies, thoughts, feelings. Some are a little bit more turned on, and some are like turned on in the fact that they absorb the separateness of others more than they do the expansion of others. When you are in the expansion of you, you tend to attract and invite those around you to be in the expansion of themselves. And so you get filled up and filled up and filled up and filled up. Now, that doesn't always happen, but it's more of the rule. It's like the rule and the law of attraction. If you are tending to attract around you people who you call drainers, energy vampires, and so on, use that as an invitation to find out how to turn your own light on, because most likely you're in this space of contraction and you feel better around people who are already expanded and they invite you to expand yourself. But what would it take for you to actually be in the space of expansion? And therefore, if somebody is in the separateness of self, you're just the space of allowance, and it doesn't come in and overtake you. It can't. Just like darkness in a room cannot overtake light. If the light is on, the light overtakes the darkness. It just envelops it. It like essentially gives it an embrace and says, come into me. What are your experiences? What do you know? What would you like to say? Thanks so much. And if you ever are in the interest of having a session with me, I do intuitive body processes where I help you awaken the light within you so that it can absolutely reside in every single cell of your body and then beyond, so that your life becomes the reflection of that expanded space and things start to flow in and for you in like rapid succession. And if you're ever interested in having a painting done, I tend to do energy art, where I tap into your spirit and not just paint who you are as in your body, but also how you vibrate, what colors you vibrate, and also write down messages that are coming from your energy body and your body awareness. So reach out. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.